AEW's Forbidden Door is quickly establishing itself as one of the premier pay-per-views of the year from any wrestling company on the planet. It reminds me in a lot of ways to Money in the Bank, where it's not the biggest spectacle show of the year, but it has this sort of gimmick going into it that has this ingrained interest from the audience. So even if they're not necessarily invested in a lot of the storylines going into it, the pay-per-view sells itself. And what we're going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be giving you guys my dream card for Forbidden Door 2025. Now, this is not a prediction to what I think the video will be. In fact, it's or what the card will be. It's not going to be even remotely close to the card. In fact, there are currently 5 things announced for the card, according to Cage Match, an AEW TBS title 4-way match where Mercedes Moné is defending against Alex Windsor and 2 other opponents, not yet determined. The Hurt Syndicate are having a title match against unspecified opponents. Okada is facing Strickland for the unified title. Tony Storm is facing Athena for the women's title, and Zack Sabre Jr. will be defending the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. One thing that I don't really love about Forbidden Door, especially in the past 2 years or so, is it's skewing more heavily to just be an AEW pay-per-view with 1 or 2 matches featuring talent from New Japan. The original Forbidden Door pay-per-view, every single match was really these 2 companies coming together to put on some dream matches, but mostly a lot of fun, unique combinations that you just didn't really ever expect to see. And I feel like that idea has sort of gone away over the past couple years in replacement for some big money AEW matches to sell the pay-per-view, and then sprinkling in some New Japan matches as well. So the card that I'm going to be presenting to you guys is 100% Forbidden Door. Every single match features at least 1 wrestler from AEW and 1 wrestler from a rival promotion. They're not all New Japan. Most of them are, but I have some women's matches on there that have Stardom wrestlers. I have some CMLL wrestlers thrown in there. Just a little variety, but every single match is AEW versus another company, like I think Forbidden Door should be. If you guys like the video, please consider subscribing, leaving a comment, and leaving a like, as it really, really does help a new channel like mine to grow. But with all of that being said, I am Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling, and let's go ahead and dream book AEW/New Japan Forbidden Door 2025. So how I'm going to go through the card is I booked 10 different matches over the course of Forbidden Door. I'm going to go through each match, the competitors, how I feel the match would be laid out, how long I think the match will go, how I think it's going to end, and then some potential spin-off directions for the future. But for a lot of these matches, it is sort of just really good wrestler from AEW versus a really good wrestler from New Japan, putting them together, seeing what happens. So in terms of storyline developments, for some matches on the card, not as present as would normally be on a Forbidden Door pay-per-view. And looking through the card, some of the stuff that I have on here isn't as big time as stuff at Forbidden Door in the past. Like, for example, last year, the main event, I believe, was Swerve Strickland defending against either Will Ospreay or Bryan Danielson. I think it was against Will Ospreay. My matches aren't as big or money as that because I am trying to stick to the genuine Forbidden Door concept. And with New Japan, there just aren't as many big money matches as there were in the past before their talent really started getting hemorrhaged by AEW and other companies. So what I just tried to do is book a card of what will be really, really great matches, and as a whole, top to bottom, will be a fantastic card, hopefully. And we are starting with a 10-man tag. It is representing New Japan, the Bullet Club War Dogs, being represented by David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, and Drilla Maloney. They are teaming with the Death Riders, John Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli, to take on Brody King, Bandito, Kevin Knight, Mike Bailey, and from CMLL, Mascara Dorada. This is just supposed to be a hot opener with a lot of fast-paced action, just throwing a lot of guys in there who are really good in this sort of bang, 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 big moves, big spot setting. Mascara Dorada, Bandito, Mike Bailey, Kevin Knight, and Brody King especially being really, really good in there. Whereas the other team, the heels in this case, the War Dogs and the Death Riders, are mainly going to be the recipients of a lot of the offense, but also will be in there to sort of act as foils to that, and maybe at points slow the match down, hit some more strong style, heavy hitting offense compared to the flashy, high flying stuff of the other team. It's going to go about 12 minutes, so not crazy long for an opener. One thing I did try to do was keep some of my matches pretty short because AEW cards obviously are so full of excess. And I tried to keep them down a little bit. So this is just 12 minutes for the opener, and it ends with John Moxley hitting a paradigm shift on Kevin Knight. But just before he does that, David Finlay blind tags in. So when Moxley goes for the pin, the ref doesn't count. Finlay comes in, pushes Mox out of the way, hits an overkill on Kevin Knight, and then gets the pin. And it's sort of a way for Finlay to steal the win from the Death Riders. And this could spin off into a War Dogs versus Death Riders feud over in Japan. Maybe we could have a trios match. Finlay, Gabe Kidd, Drilla Maloney versus Moxley, Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta. And you have an interesting dynamic there of Gabe Kidd, who was sort of a mercenary for Death Riders, and now you have to try to determine where his allegiance lies in this new feud. I think it would be a fun little match to do the opener, and I think you could have a pretty cool feud going into the end of the summer and throughout the rest of the year in this sort of faction warfare across AEW and New Japan. Next up, we have a women's match. For my women's matches on the card, I tried to do a few. Obviously, I would love to see parity between the men's and the women's division, and the women's get just as much time and spotlight as the men's division. But with two companies, AEW, which has a lot of great women's wrestling, but often doesn't give them the time or spotlight that they deserve, and New Japan, which is famously a company that focuses almost exclusively on men's wrestling, it was sort of hard to find some really money matchups there. But I tried. I put 3 women's matches on the card, but I'm mainly pulling from Stardom and not from New Japan here. And our first match is going to be for the IWGP Women's Championship. It is champion Sareee defending against current TBS champion Mercedes Moné. Like I said, this isn't going to happen at the card. Mercedes Moné has already been confirmed for a title match at the card, but this is my fantasy booking of what I would like to see happen. Sareee is an absolutely fantastic wrestler. I've only really gotten into her this year, but she's had some absolutely fantastic matches with Shuri. A lot of great stuff at All-Star Grand Queendom, at Stardom the Conversion, and doing good stuff in the 5-Star Grand Prix this year. So I think her going against Mercedes would be a really, really good matchup. Mercedes has really great matches with Joshi wrestlers. Their styles blend really well in the spots that they're supposed to blend well together, like in the chain wrestling and the striking, but contrast each other in great ways too, where the Joshi wrestlers do a lot of head and neck work, whereas Mercedes is the more flashy sort of dives, meteoras, that kind of stuff. I just think it would be a really, really good matchup. It would go about 15 minutes, and it would end when Mercedes Moné submits Sareee using the statement maker to regain the IWGP Women's Championship, a championship which she lost, I think, early this year, late last year. She lost it to Azami, and then Azami lost it to Shuri, and Shuri lost it to Sareee, and that's where we are at now. I think it would be a great match. I think it would really bring out the best in both women, introduce a North American audience to Suri, who they haven't necessarily seen a ton of yet, and give Mercedes and Monet another fantastic match this year, which she is quickly wrapping them up. And she gets to be IWGP Women's Champion again. A little bit of a shorter match next, only 10 minutes for the TNT title match. It is Kyle Fletcher defending against El Phantasmo. This match is, never really in doubt who's going to win. Kyle Fletcher just won the title from Dustin Rhodes on Collision a few weeks back. And El Phantasmo is just sort of in there to really give him a great match and sort of a statement win on what will hopefully be a pretty lengthy title run. El Phantasmo is sort of an eternal mid-carder for New Japan, but he's someone who has really high-flying offense. He's really entertaining to watch, especially on sort of the bigger stages when he really seems up for it and he really puts 100% of his effort into it. And only giving them 10 minutes, it sort of condenses all of the action into just a short sprint, which is an area where Phantasmo really succeeds, as well as Fletcher. Fletcher can succeed in any sort of match type, but those sort of 10-minute TV matches that he has on Collision are always a real highlight, and he can really make greatness with pretty much anyone he's in there with. So this is sort of just a match to get Fletcher a win, get him on the card, get Phantasmo on the card because I'm a huge fan of him, and just be this quick little burst of excitement after Mercedes versus Suri, which will be sort of a more, slow technical build over the course of a match leading to some big action at the end. This one will be a fireworks factory, a complete sprint over the course of 10 minutes, where in the end, Kyle Fletcher will win after hitting a brainbuster on El Phantasmo. Next is another 10-man tag. It is the babyface team of the Ops, which is Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Katsuyori Shibata, teaming up with Shota Umino and Tomohiro Ishii to take on the team of the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, Konosuke Takeshita, Josh Alexander, and Hechicero of the Don Callis family. This match was sort of thrown together because I wanted to get Shota Umino in a tag match because I feel that is often where some of his best qualities are presented. And he is very much a strong style wrestler, goes for the strike exchanges as big parts of his offense. So I feel matching him up with Ishii, who he has partnered with in the past, as well as the Ops, all of their styles flow very well together. And their aesthetics as well, they're all sort of the hard-knuckled ass kicker baby faces, so they would mesh really well together in my opinion. And they are going against a team of people who are also really tough as nails: Hechicero, Josh Alexander, and Konosuke Takeshita, as well as the Young Bucks, who would sort of be playing the cowardly foil heels in this match. This match would pretty much be all action. I would say it would be akin to the Ops versus the Death Riders opener from All In Texas, except the Ops would be dominating large portions of the beginning before Shibata got isolated by the Don Callis family. And then that wouldn't last too long, like 2-3 minutes, before it turned into sort of a Young Bucks cocaine thriller sprint sort of match where everyone's just going 100 miles an hour. The Bucks are fantastic at it. Takeshita's awesome at it. The Ops have shown to be really fun in those kinds of matches in the past. And even Tomohiro Ishii, as part of the conglomeration, has had really fun 6-8-man tags in the past. So I feel like all of these wrestlers could really come together and make something special. They're going out there for 15 minutes, and it ends when Samoa Joe chokes out Matt Jackson in the Coquina Clutch to win the match. Just a little quick burst of energy, a lot of fun in there, sort of picking back up from the high-octane TNT title match, continuing that momentum before we get one of our really big star-heavy matches, which is coming right up. Next on the card is very much a spectacle match rather than being a great match. It is Kazuchika Okada defending his unified championship against Hiroshi Tanahashi. Okada and Tanahashi, one of the most legendary rivalries in New Japan history. They're both nowhere near their prime anymore. Tanahashi's in his retirement tour year. And this match isn't going to be anything special. It's the shortest match on the card. It's 8 minutes long. It is them going out there and hitting their highlights for the crowd to pop for the ideas of both men rather than actually being presented with both of them in their prime. It's sort of a legends match for these two guys where Tanahashi hits, a dragon screw, he hits a high flow, he hits a sling blade, Okada hits the diving elbow, and ultimately wins with the Rainmaker. Nothing too long, in and out in 8 minutes, letting the crowd pop for both of these legendary Japanese figures, and then just having a nice, breezy, quick match to really, really pump up the crowd. So the crowd has just had a lot of really, really high octane matches. The TNT title match, the 10-man tag, and then Okada versus Tanahashi. They need something to take them down a little bit that can bring them back up over the course of a great match. So we are going to be looking at an 8-woman tag match. It is going to be 4 women from AEW, Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, Queen Aminata, and Jamie Hayter going up against the Stardom collection of Neo Genesis, which is represented by Azami, Starlight Kid, Mei Sarah, and Miyu Amasaki. This is a match that is going to start out slow and is going to be a little bit quiet from some of the fans because they probably won't be familiar with this Stardom foursome as a lot of the other people on the card, a lot of the other Stardom and New Japan wrestlers. So there won't be as much initial investment, but the 8 women in here are all absolutely, well, I should say at least 7 of them. I don't really love Miyu Amasaki, but the other 7 women are all absolutely fantastic, and they can absolutely pull the crowd into the match through the strength of their work alone. I I want this to sort of be a breaking out party for Queen Aminata because I feel she is consistently one of the best parts of AEW TV, but often doesn't get recognized by the booking as a result. So my main focus in this match would be to make her look really strong, even though her team doesn't get the win. After 15 minutes, Azami would pin Chris Statlander with, I don't even know what it's called, her just really cool pinning combination where she sort of does a roll up but then swings her leg over the other person's leg to sort of fold them in half and trap them. I don't know what it's called, but I absolutely love seeing it. I wanted to give the Stardom women a win on this show because there are 3 matches featuring Stardom women's wrestlers, and they lose 2 of them. Spoiler for later down the card. So I wanted to give them a win here. And also, it would be a chance for commentary to put over the 5-star Grand Prix, saying all 4 of these Stardom women are wrestling in Stardom's equivalent of the Continental Classic, the G1 Climax. If you're impressed with them in this match and the win that Azami gets over Statlander, go watch them over on Stardom World. It'll just be a nice little press junket for them. And I feel like these women would be energized and be really trying to go out there and having a great match. And I feel they could have one of the sneakiest bangers on the card where you look at it and you go, oh yeah, that'll be a great match. And then on the night, it's absolutely fantastic. That would be my hope anyway. I do feel like there is a chance the crowd would be a little bit dead for this the entire time, which could bring it down. But 15 minutes of action, hard hitting stuff throughout. All of Neo Genesis are real strikers, as well as, Hayter, Aminata, Statlander, and Nightingale obviously have a lot of power to their game. So I feel like they would really be able to pull the crowd in with this match. That's the hope, at least. 6 matches in, we got 4 to go, and 4 high-profile singles matches are rounding out this card. The final 3 being for titles, this next one just being sort of the big attraction match that everyone is going to see, especially the UK crowd coming out to see Will Ospreay taking on Yota Tsuji. As of recording this video, the G1 Climax has not ended. When I was making my G1 Climax prediction video, predicted Yota Tsuji to win, and I am still holding that prediction. So in this match, it would sort of be the ace of AEW in Will Ospreay going up against the new ace of New Japan, the G1 Climax winner in Yota Tsuji. This is going to be the longest match on the card. It's going to be about 25 minutes. These guys have had an absolutely incredible match in the past. Towards the end of, I think it was 2023, they had an absolute banger match. It was the first time I'd ever seen Yota Tsuji wrestle, and it sort of made me fall in love with him. And this is going to try to be a replication of that. There's not a lot I can really say about this match other than you have the best worker from AEW and probably outside of Zack Sabre Jr., the best worker for New Japan going head to head in an absolute classic brawl. If you think of times when Will Ospreay has gone out on pay-per-view, he's had 20 minutes and they've just said, hey, go out and have an incredible match. You can look at Swerve Strickland, Bryan Danielson, Takeshita, Omega, Pac, MJF, whoever you want. He always goes out there and delivers in these big match settings, and this would just be another example of that. Now, Ospreay is dealing with a little bit of an injury right now, so I'm not going to have him win this match. I'm going to have Yota Tsuji win this match. He's going to hit Ospreay with a Marlowe Stomp and a Gene Blast to win. I feel that's really important after, in my world, he's just coming off winning the G1 Climax, so he sort of needs that momentum to carry him through, and a big win over Will Ospreay on a pay-per-view for North American, British audiences would really do wonders for him in the eyes of sort of an international audience and maybe draw some more eyes to the New Japan product. So I'll have Yota Tsuji pick up the win over Will Ospreay. Next, we have a champion versus championship match. No titles on the line, just seeing who is the better wrestler. The ace of the AEW women's division, Toni Storm, taking on the best in Stardom, Saya Kamatani. These women are two of the best in the world, and I would be really excited to see him go at it because similarly to Mercedes Moné, when Toni Storm steps in there with a Joshi wrestler, she really can produce greatness. We've seen that with Mina Shirakawa in the past. She, I almost said grew up wrestling in Stardom. She got a big start wrestling in some of those promotions like Eve, Stardom, Shimmer, where they all have similar hard-hitting, strong styles. Before she went to NXT UK, that's where she was. So sort of tapping back into those roots a little bit. I feel like these two could have a really, really great match. Making it a non-title match and just champion versus champion, in my mind, would make the outcome a little bit more unpredictable. I would have it not go too crazy long. I would have it only be 15 minutes, and Toni Storm would get the win after 3 consecutive Storm Zeros on Saya Kamatani. I feel like a lot of times I like Toni Storm better when she's in sort of shorter sprint matches. She had one of the best matches of the year earlier this year at Revolution with Mariah May, and that was only 12 minutes long. So I feel like in these sort of, not a short burst because 15 minutes is still a very long match, but compared to 25 minutes for Ospreay versus Tsuji and some longer matches we'll talk about in the next 2 matches, I feel like the shorter match time would really help these women, especially because Saya Kamatani, not as well known a name in the AEW sphere, so it would be able to really ride the momentum of Toni Storm and not overstay its welcome and keep the audience engaged the entire time. That would be my goal, at least. I could fully see this being, well, not the best match on the card. I think Ospreay versus Tsuji pretty much has that locked down. But this could be one of the matches people are walking away from the card going, Saya Kamatani really, really impressed me in that Toni Storm match, and I'm really hoping she's able to leave an impression even in defeat here. Doubleheader going into the main event, 2 titles on the line. The first is the IWGP World Championship. It is Zack Sabre Jr. defending against Swerve Strickland. I'm not sure if these guys have ever had a match before. They certainly haven't in their current iteration. Swerve sort of being the coolest guy in all of wrestling and one of the tops of AEW, and Zack Sabre Jr. being, in my mind, easily the best wrestler on planet Earth, the ace of New Japan. These guys going at it, I feel like they could have a really, really great match. Zack often, the reason that I love Zack so much and that I think he's an absolutely incredible wrestler is because he is able to have a Zack Sabre Jr. match with just about anyone, but also gelling his style to effectively incorporate the offense of whoever else he's going against. And when he is wrestling these sort of big bombastic wrestlers like you get when he wrestles Yota Tsuji, when he wrestles Will Ospreay, whoever it'll be, he really, really shines out because he is able to effectively play with the pace of the match, slowing it down into his submission game when necessary, but giving the crowd opportunities to really come up for his opponent in the moments that is necessary. And Swerve Strickland, I feel like, is the perfect foil to him. Everybody loves Swerve Strickland. He is a really, you could take him seriously as a contender, even though you're pretty certain he's not going to win. You could really take him seriously as someone who could dethrone Zack Sabre Jr. based on his aura alone. And he is really great at coming out in the big match spots, not as much as some other people like Tony Storm or Will Ospreay. I feel like Swerve Strickland's a little bit more hit or miss in that regard, but these two coming together, this would be the match I would honestly be most excited for, because with Will Ospreay versus Yota Tsuji, you know what that match is going to look like. It's going to start out slow with some chain wrestling before getting into some chops, some dives, and then getting into the really, really screwy finishing kickouts at the end. With Zack Sabre Jr. versus Swerve Strickland, I just have no idea how that would look. On paper, it would go 18 minutes. It would be Zack dominating the first half of the match with Swerve coming back at the end, but ultimately Zack would tap Swerve at the end with a sort of Rings of Saturn-esque submission move. This, in my mind, Yota Tsuji versus Will Ospreay will be the best match on the card. I could easily see this being my favorite match on the card. Like, objectively, Ospreay versus Tsuji will be better. It'll hit higher highs. But this match, I feel like, will be more impressive, if that makes any sense. It'll be sort of a little bit of artistry in the match, and really something that'll make the hardcore audiences and the fans of a more technical style of wrestling lean back and say, wow. And that's going to lead us into our main event. Hangman Page defending the AEW World Championship against Shingo Takagi. This was the match I was most iffy about, because Shingo is not really a name we associate with like a huge star power over here in the States. He's not like, an Okada or an Omega or a Tanahashi when they were wrestling over in New Japan, the sort of people who we really we recognize and we view as being the greatest in the world. Shingo Takagi is a little bit more slept on in that regard, which is why I wanted to give him this spot to really shine out and to have an absolutely incredible match against Adam Page, because I feel like these two are sort of the perfect opponents for each other. Shingo Takagi is very much a striker and a brawler who goes with the heavy shots, the lariats, the forearms, the suplexes, and Hangman Page is someone who does very, very well where he's pushed into that area of wrestling, the brawling style, like we've seen against him and Jon Moxley, him and Jay White, MJF, Swerve Strickland, their incredible set of matches. When he's going against Shingo Takagi, it'll be a side of Adam Page that really expresses the best of his character when he is just going into a shootout with an absolute animal like Shingo Takagi is. So I don't think it'll be necessarily the most high-profile match. I think it will get some complaints akin to the first Forbidden Door when Will Ospreay wrestled Orange Cassidy. Some people were going, really? This is what we're doing with Will Ospreay? Some people might say, Shingo Takagi in the main event, really? But akin to Ospreay versus Cassidy at the first pay-per-view, I think afterwards people will sort of sit back and go, you know what? That was the absolute perfect choice for Hangman's opponent in the main event. Hangman will retain the title after 20 minutes. He will pin Takagi after a buckshot lariat to the back of the head, followed up by a buckshot lariat to the front. And that's my card. In total, match length is about 151 minutes, so it's 2.5 hours of action, which is less than a normal AEW pay-per-view, but with entrances and everything, it'll still be probably like 3.5 hours. And I feel like that is sort of the sweet spot for where an AEW pay-per-view wants to be. So in addition to bringing all of these match combinations together, I also wanted to create a card that would be really enjoyable for the viewing audience. I want to let I want you guys to let me know what you think of my card. Are there any matches on here that you would really like to see? Anything that you said, Isaiah, you're putting this over a little bit too much. Maybe this match wouldn't be as great as you think. What do you guys think of the current lineup for AEW New Japan Forbidden Door this year? Do you think it looks better than my card or worse than my card? In all honesty, of course, it's going to be better than my card. Those are the pros who do it all year long. I'm just some schmuck sitting in a semi office slash bedroom who has no idea what I'm doing. But let me know what you thought of my card down in the comments below. And while you're there, please subscribe and like the video, as it really, really does help a new channel like mine to grow. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Keep an eye on the channel. New videos are going to be coming out on a regular basis. As always, thank you for watching. I am Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling, and I will see you next time.